Well, good morning, everybody. First of all, of course, many thanks to President Stubb for inviting us to lovely Helsinki. It's really timely to be in Helsinki, in the Gulf of Finland at this specific moment. It's very timely to meet with the other GEF countries at this specific moment. So many things are happening in our neighborhoods right now when we have so many security concerns to discuss together. As you know, we have extremely strong cooperation between all the Baltic Sea countries, including, of course, in this case, the UK and Netherlands. We are putting a lot of emphasis on taking care of the shadow fleet, according to international law, of course, but as you have seen, it gives a lot of room for us to act when they act in a very careless way, as you could see in Sweden the last week. And we will, of course, discuss also the consequences for Ukraine in this very specific and formative moment. So that's why we are happy to be here. What is the situation in that matter? Yeah. Will Sweden deploy Gripen fighters for Ukraine in the future? The situation is good, just to put it very, very simple. We have ongoing discussions with the Ukrainians. The ambition is to be able to have a more formalized letter of intent this summer, but everything, as you know, is depending on the financial situation. Everybody agrees that one of the most important things to do for Ukraine is actually make available money for them to create a long-term defense, including air defense. So it very much depends on the financial solutions, but we are working on that right now. We and the UK, to be honest. How do you see the security situation of the Baltic Sea? Just seeing the spillover effect of Ukraine war. Yeah. Well, fundamentally, I would say, I normally tell my fellow Swedes that the Baltic Sea has probably never in modern times been more challenged than it is today. Underwater cable being destroyed, bad seamanship being shown very, very, very often, and all other things happening in the Baltic Sea. On the other hand, the Baltic Sea has probably never been as protected as it is right now, surrounded by NATO countries, cooperating in a way we have never been able to do before. So in that sense, it's safer than before. But of course, what Russia is doing is very concerning. And what Ukraine is doing right now is basically impressive. Is Trump's war in Iran helping Russia as oil prices are getting higher all the time? Yeah. Can GEF countries do something about it? Yeah. Well, the fact that oil prices are increasing in price is, of course, one of many very concerning things about the war in the Middle East. And the only beneficiary of that is obviously Russia right now. On the other hand, their capacity is obviously being decreased as well in terms of vessels not being able to end their destinations or facilities being destroyed that actually really decreases the capacity for them to export oil. So it goes both ways right now. But Russia is winning of a high oil price and everybody else is losing on a higher oil price. Well, it's not, I wouldn't exclude that. Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, I don't know yet, obviously. I think we will focus on the neighborhoods that we all share, but obviously what happens in other parts of the world also affects us, so I don't at all exclude that possibility. I think I'm running out of time. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.
Hello, good morning. We're here in a GEF format, I think it's very important that today, when there are so many geopolitical issues, not just anymore we will speak about Ukraine and our own security to Gulf countries, but I think today as well we will speak about Iran and Gulf countries. So it's important that Gulf continues to strengthen our good coordination, as all those countries could say we are friends as well, not just allies. And with recent attacks to Ukraine, which has been very serious, we as well need to discuss how we can develop our drone capabilities, our abilities to defend ourselves. And last days, we could see that Ukraine answered as well with their drones. Baltic states get a little bit of, how to say, loop of that. And therefore, JEF is a format where as well we can give orders and advices to work our defense ministers to find the solutions for those very tricky situations. So therefore, I think it's a good format to develop not just what is happening on the sea, but as well what is happening in the air. So therefore, today, I agree that we will probably listen to President Zelensky, who is now the associated member to JEF, and he will join this group of allies, and we will figure out what else could be done, how more we could help Ukraine to defend ourselves, and as well to end this very cruel war, what's happening in Ukraine. So, thank you.
How should Baltic states or CEF states better their drone capabilities in the current situation? We see talks about the drone wall, and now we see the Ukraine attacking Russia with their drones coming to NATO area.
I think we need just to decide that we need to manufacture and produce them more. We as Latvia, we will host a drone summit in May 27. Everyone is invited, and without those capabilities, it's impossible now, I think, to win the war. We are helping UAE now to defend themselves because it's very expensive to shoot to cheap drones with very expensive air defense systems. So it means we have to find a way how together we can cope with current technical issues. And I think it's a good opportunity for us as well to decide who will produce what and how we can speed up. I think speed up is a very serious issue because we already have very awesome technologies. We bought something from Ukraine, like its sound system, so we can detect drones. Now we need more abilities to hit those drones down, which comes from Russia or whatever.
Dear Prime Minister, how we can force Russia and Mr. Vladimir Putin to stop Russia's brutal invasion on Ukraine? How we can do that?
I think we need to go forward with sanctions because if we will eliminate Russia's financial resources, it's the best what we can do now, not to attack Russia, but we can eliminate and with sanctions and taking down shadow fleet as well, but actually Finland is doing very well, and not only Finland, almost all JEF countries actually are doing this. We can get down Russia's economy and their financial resources. It's very important because already now we can see those economic issues for Russia is very, very tough. Thank you. That's the situation of war. The aggressor is Russia. Ukraine has the right to defend themselves, and they are defending, and we will help Ukraine. Thank you.
Good morning. First of all, I had the honor of hosting the JEF last May, and I'd like to thank President Stubb for convening us here in Helsinki. This is our neighborhood meeting, And the GEF has developed over years to be a very important way for the Northern European countries to come together, share analysis, and deepen cooperation on security. And by moving around in the region, we are also exposed to realities which are different according to geography. So when we were meeting in Norway last time, we were able to talk about the Arctic, the maritime challenges in the Norwegian Sea and the Barents Sea and the Arctic Sea. And now we've been exposed to the challenges here in the Baltic Sea. And this is very useful. I believe the GEF is not an alternative to NATO. It is basically how Northern European countries come together to deepen their cooperation inside NATO. And if we look at the big picture, it is Europe's responsibility to strengthen the European pillar of NATO. This is not due to the current American administration. In fact, it is an historic responsibility that we need to take. And that's why what I call neighborhood security is important. And that's why GEF is important for Norway, and I'm very happy to be here.
You just had a chat with Rubio, the US State Secretary. Is US and GEF allies aligned on Ukraine? You are also having a chat with Zelensky today.
Well, I know that the G7 foreign ministers will meet today. Ukraine will be on their agenda. I made it clear to Secretary Rubio that Ukraine war is drama for Ukraine, with refugees and destructions and daily attacks on their civil infrastructure, and that our support to Ukraine is very steadfast. For Norway's part, I think we are the #1 country now in supporting them financially. And this is because we support Ukraine and their right to defend themselves, but this has implications for European security. We cannot sit still and see that the military means will be used to change geography, change borders. And we make it very clear to the Americans that we encourage them to play their role diplomatically. We know that right now there is no progress in the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia with American role. But don't give up on that. We have to keep the focus. But at the same time, I believe we need to increase the pressure on Russia, which is the aggressor. And this conflict, if you go back to February 22, has been on an escalation. And I think at some stage there needs to be also a diplomatic process that can give a fair and lasting peace.
How we can stop Mr. Putin and Russia? What are the means so that they are forced to stop their aggression to Ukraine?
Well, I think in the first sense we need to support Ukraine's right to defend itself. That's why we have been providing from our stocks basic military equipment to defend themselves. That has basically been now, we have nothing more from our stocks, but we support their own ability to produce what they need for air defense, for drones, and we have now, I think, all Nordic Baltic countries a mutual relationship with Ukraine. What they learn at the front is important for us. I visited earlier this week the middle of Norway in Trondheim, where we have a training site for Ukrainian troops. We have trained 11,000 troops, and when they come to Norway, they also bring a lot of expertise and experience that we need. So that's the first point. Then we have to step up the pressure, I believe. We've had 18 packages of sanctions from the European Union, which Norway has supported. I want to see us live side by side with Russia in peace. I want to see that we have tranquility and security. But under these circumstances, I believe that pressure has to be built up. We are not an aggressive alliance. We are a peace. We do this to preserve and protect our peace. And again, as I say, the maritime transport here in the Baltic Sea, the role that Finland is playing here to keep order and secure that the ships that are sailing, the shadow fleet, is something we monitor and track very, very precisely. That is an important way of, I think, coming closer to a negotiated solution. Well, I mean, now it's basically Europe that is supporting Ukraine, funding. Norway is in a position that we see we have a responsibility and the financial ability to support. We do that. But I think we have to talk to all our European partners that this is now a really European matter. And we need to explain again that the fate and the outcome of this war will have implications for all of us. So we have to work on that, and we also have to work on the American administrations that they are forthcoming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning to everybody. I would address three maybe key points of today and take a few questions. As I know, I have 3 minutes, so I'll try to fit in. The first one is the topic of Ukraine. It's the most important topic still there is, because to be honest, everybody is probably watching what is happening in the Middle East, and with concern, and it's understandable, but for our neighborhood and our region, what's happening in Ukraine is with utmost importance, because this still is the biggest military conflict since Second World War in our region, and Ukraine needs our help. Assistance, money-wise, weaponry-wise, and all that we can do. And also I have to mention that we should also think that this is not a one-way street, because, for example, right now Ukraine is already delivering assistance, for example, in drone areas to other countries. And they have innovation, they have technology which no other country has. So this is also working as to secure other countries. For example, in Estonia, yesterday we had a drone incident. It was spillover of Ukrainian defense, probably defending themselves from Russian attacks. And no major harm was done, but still it reminds that we need new capabilities, drone-wise, aerial protection-wise, and everybody needs, because, to be honest, in conflict zones, innovation is so rapid, and in Ukraine it's much faster than everywhere else. That is the first thing. Second thing is that we need to keep the pressure on Russia, because, to be honest, this is the only way to stop Russia from aggressor state and becoming and coming to negotiations, because if you don't take away the money from Russia, if you don't pressure them, politeness will not work with Russia. It's weakness for them. And tackling shadow fleet, pressuring them with sanctions and everything else is very important. And going to the third point, we will have NATO summit in Ankara. Estonia is well prepared. Our defense expenditure is 5.4%, which is I would say the best we can do, and top country also in NATO. And this is a necessity, not something just to look at, because if you have a neighbor which is aggressor, which has a dictator in power, then you need this kind of action. So for us, CHEF and the allies here are with utmost importance. We have warm and good relations with them, and for us this kind of close engagement and good talks between partners is very important, and against also our common enemy. So thank you. If you have questions, I can answer. Yeah.
What can the CHEF countries further do to block Russia's shadow fleet?
We have already done a lot, because, to be honest, when we started the discussion about shadow fleet, I can remember that even in Estonia we had this kind of discussion on the political field, that should we be this aggressive towards Russia, because this is the money and you have this kind of ability to this kind of open seas principles and so on. But right now I would say that, for example, when we look to Finns, and Finns are quite good at it, Swedes, even Belgium, France, UK has made a decision. So the first one is intent, and the intent in CHEF countries is there. If you talk about it, about shadow fleet, everybody gets on board. This is the first thing. And second thing is to have capability, because I don't know if it's a correct number. I'm referring to AI, which is quite modern thing, I know. But according to AI, average length of shadow fleet ship is about, not ship, but journey is about 3,000 to 5,000 miles on the sea. So you have a long distance to intercept, not Russia all the way. So all the countries involved here can do that. And we have also capabilities, and also in European Union and different kind of partnerships, we can pressure every country that gives the flags to this kind of set of fleet ships and so on. So we have the ability, and I would say that the first thing was the shadow fleet and also Russian assets. The next one, which we are also proposing in European Union, is the combatants, because, for example, Russian fighters coming to European Union, this will be the next big thing to pressure Russia on. Thank you.
There are lots of ships from the shadow fleet now in the Bay of Finland. They come to Oslo and Primors. Is this like a momentum? Could anything be done now?
To be honest, it's a big question for everybody around the Baltic Sea and on the way, because as in Primorsk and Ust-Luga, as much as we know, a lot of harm has been done. They are not capable of pumping everything they were able to do right now, and there's a big question: will ships pile up in our sea, and what will we do? So this probably will be among the topics to discuss today. What can we do? Thank you.
Many analysts have said that Russia has lost all their strategic goals in Ukraine war. But it's also possible that we are not seeing Ukraine winning the war either. How should Europe or this area be ready for that kind of scenario?
No, I would say that we can go back many years. It's already fifth year war is ongoing. And you can remember Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin saying that this will be 3-day special operation. It hasn't been a 3-day special operation, not even close. And I would say right now, if you are looking at Ukrainians, and we are constantly talking to them, they are in fighting spirit. They say that they can manage, they can hold on with European support. Yes, they need money, they need weaponry, assistance, backing, and also the future in European Union, which to me is quite obvious. So I would say that we should keep the pressure on Russia, assist Ukraine. That probably will get us to just a lasting peace, not the scenarios which are not unlikable to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. It's great to be here in Helsinki. We in Iceland have obviously benefited a lot and been very happy with the JEF coordination. We see an increased focus now on the Arctic, the North Atlantic. This is something that we've wanted to see and are looking forward to having good and fruitful conversations today. And with that, I'll just take some questions.
Dear Prime Minister, Iceland does not have army at the moment. Are you considering to establish some kind of defense forces in the future and join into European Union as well?
I don't see it in the foreseeable future that we will have an active military. Our defenses have, from the beginning of time, been based on our cooperation, for example, with the US military. We have a bilateral defense agreement. We joined NATO based on that communication and that cooperation. But we obviously need to make sure that we're doing our utmost to be a good host nation, to have the logistical and infrastructure capabilities so we can be a good ally for our NATO allies. So our biggest focus when it comes to military expenditure has been to make sure that our air base, our Keflavik air base is strong, that we have good facilities for air policing. So we see Iceland more as a hub, as a structure to be useful in that regard. And we're very focused on the fact that we're basically not spending money on capabilities that don't work to the advantage of the alliance. So I don't see that changing in the foreseeable future, but we're still spending quite a lot and much more than we did before on defense capabilities, but it's more host nation supported. When it comes to the EU, yes, we have a referendum at the end of the summer. I want to be clear, it's a referendum on whether we should open talks with the EU, not about joining the EU, but this is still a big question for the Icelandic public. We have actually, and we saw this also during the first administration of Trump, but even further now, despite maybe the political developments that you might be seeing towards Europe, we see more focused, if anything, on Iceland. Our communication and work with them has been very good. We've seen increased focus in general on Iceland, and we've been stepping up our capabilities when it comes to working with them. So at that sort of practical level, we haven't seen any change, and if anything, a better operational relationship between the two countries.
You are having today discussions with the Canadian Prime Minister. Are you hoping to see more dialogue or cooperation with Canada on JEF also when it comes to Arctic security?
I think it would be very important. I think there's always, at least since Iceland joined JEF, been this discussion of whether JEF should be bigger, who should be in JEF, and I think there's a balance that needs to be found, because you don't want too many structures within NATO, because NATO is obviously very functional. I think for a country like Iceland, Canada is very important. We are neighbors when it comes to the Arctic. We are neighbors when it comes to the US. We are neighbors when it comes to Russia. So I think it's positive to have Canada with us in that cooperation. Whether they're full members of a JEF is a bigger discussion, but this JEF Plus has worked very well for us. Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone, it's very good to be here, my fourth week in office as the Dutch Prime Minister. The JEF is a very important platform for us to work closely together with our allies to protect the northern part of Europe, to step up our joint cooperation on security, and that is of utmost importance in these challenging times where we see hybrid and physical threats from Russia, the Russian aggression continuing in Ukraine as the biggest threat for European security, but obviously also other geopolitical challenges all around the world that are affecting the European security and economy. And we have obviously the NATO as our most important alliance for our safety, but this JET platform is very crucial to increase the European cooperation and the European pillar within NATO. So I'm looking forward to the discussions ahead.
Dear Prime Minister, you are new at your post. What is your message to Russia and Mr. Vladimir Putin? And what is your government's Ukraine policy? Will the Netherlands deploy more weapons to Ukraine?
We are very clear on Ukraine. We will continue our support for our Ukrainian friends, both financially, military and non-military, as long as the Russian aggression against Ukraine continues. And the Netherlands works closely together with all allies to make sure that Zelensky and his troops can continue to fight, and that in the end, if a peace deal is negotiated, it will be a peace deal that is acceptable for the Ukrainian people, and we will do whatever we can to support the implementation of that peace deal.
We are here with the Polish state TV. The question for us, since Poland is a growing military force within the NATO alliance, how would you see us potentially joining the JEF?
I was very lucky to visit Warsaw in my second week in office, and I had a very good conversation with Prime Minister Tusk. The Netherlands is proud to support Poland in protecting the eastern flank of the NATO area and the European Union. And I'm very much impressed by all the work that Poland has been doing over the past years to really step up its defense. And we can learn a lot from that. Poland plays an important role in the EU and in NATO. And I'm very much a fan of this JEF Plus platform. So unfortunately, Donald Tusk wasn't able to join us here today, but I'm looking forward to have him at this table as soon as possible.
Mr. Prime Minister, how do you see Ukraine's air defense capabilities right now? The Iran war has demanded a lot of American defensive missiles now being brought to the Middle East. So does Europe need to step up also deliveries of missiles for Ukraine?
Obviously, the war with Iran and a bigger escalation in the Middle East is a threat for Ukraine because we are spending so much now in the Middle East, a lot of heavy equipment that would have been better fit for the Ukrainian protection. On the other hand, you now see that the Ukrainian army over the past 4 years has been one of the most sophisticated ones in the world with a lot of knowledge on, for example, drone interception. So we can all team up with Ukraine to make sure that production of drones is increased, both for the employment in the Middle East and Ukraine. And obviously we're trying to pull together resources to have more deliveries to Ukraine also for this year. They survived a very harsh winter, but we've got to make sure that they can also survive next winter. I think all countries should do several things. Make sure that we implement all the sanctions that are in place, not any easing of sanctions against the Russian Federation, because these sanctions are hitting them very hard. We've got to make sure that this continues. The Shadow Fleet is for them a way to avoid sanctions, and the Netherlands is, together with other countries, now setting next steps to make sure that we can intervene in this Shadow Fleet. It is difficult to improve legislation, but within the current legislation, there is a lot of more that we can do. So we're working closely with that, with the UK, with Belgium, with France, and others. So I expect in the weeks and months to come more interventions in the Russian Shadow Fleet.
Donald Trump has been calling European allies to join and help in the Strait of Hormuz with it open. Do you see any kind of role for European states or for Netherlands?
The war in the Middle East is impacting the whole world, so a quick de-escalation would benefit us all. So we're calling upon the Iranians to stop the attacks on energy infrastructure in the region. We are now, together with France, protecting Cyprus and the Eastern Mediterranean, and we will look into any other mission in the Strait of Hormuz, but only after hostilities have stopped, with a clear international mandate and with one goal: to open up the Strait of Hormuz for the international trade, not only for Europe, but also for the Global South. Thank you very much.
Good morning. As the President of Lithuania, I will comment shortly the issues looking from the Lithuanian angle. First of all, about the war in Ukraine. This is already the 5th year of the war in Ukraine. And despite the efforts of United States administration and despite the efforts of international community, unfortunately, we do not see the resolution of this crisis because of unwillingness of Russian Federation to proceed, to have the deal. And I think the strategy and the tactics of Russian Federation is to continue the war, to try to conquer as much as possible the territory of Ukraine, and then maybe sit down to the table looking from the upper side. This is regretful that we were not able to take the decision in the last European Council regarding the 90 billion euros. The principal political decision has been done in December of last year, and all countries at the table agreed that practically we can proceed, but now looking to the implementation of this decision, I see the problems. I hope that there will be resolution of the problem somehow in one or another form, because Ukraine critically needs that financial resources, not only for military equipment, but also for macroeconomic stabilization. Now, a few words about JEF. We highly value the activities of Joint Expeditionary Force. And I remember already many meetings in the past about coming threats, about hybrid conventional threats in the region. And this is always good to discuss the issues with like-minded countries. which understand very well the nature of these risks coming. And even now, as we speak, we have some attacks, hybrid attacks in the Baltic countries. You probably know very well that the drones have crashed and exploded in Lithuania, in Latvia and Estonia. For Lithuania, I can confirm that it was a drone of Ukrainian origin dedicated to attack Primorsk oil terminal, but then the drone diverted from the initial route and crashed in the territory of, on the soil of Lithuania. Of course, those threats are dangerous. Of course, they create a lot of uncertainties and nervousness in the community, in the society. And we have to talk about strengthening of our defense, air defense systems. During the peacetime, air policing regime was okay, but now we see that threats are becoming more and more severe, and we have to run faster and more decisive in order to tackle those issues, and first of all by building the detection systems and by building the capabilities to destroy these drones, or no matter what other kind of unmanned systems. So thank you. I'm ready to answer your questions.
You see a way around Hungary because on the Russian frozen assets, and do you have any comments on Hungary stopping the delivery of gas to Ukraine as well?
Well, unfortunately, so far these relations between Hungary and Ukraine are developing not to the right direction. I think one of the explanations is, of course, a hot period of electional period, but I hope that we will be able to find the solutions, because we need those solutions, that not necessarily talking about the frozen assets, because the problems to find the decision on the frozen assets were not related only to Hungary, but also to other countries. But yes, I agree that we have more problems, first of all, about the opening of negotiation clusters with Ukraine, again, because of resistance of Hungary to proceed. So we need those solutions. We have to find the creative solutions, maybe by front-loading the technical work and front-loading the negotiations. And then, at the final stage, of course, a decision about the membership of new countries should be taken by unanimity and also by the decision of all countries.
What's your opinion about the overall picture of the war in Ukraine? Is Ukraine winning, as President Stubb has said, or is it too optimistic?
One thing is clear, that the expectations of Russian Federation to break the resistance of brave Ukrainian people failed, entirely failed. And of course, there are moments when Russians are maybe a little bit more successful, but in general, taking into account how long is this war and how small are the wins of Russian Federation, how small are the territories they were able to conquer, and how big are the losses they are suffering every day. I think Ukraine is prevailing, and Ukraine is really bravely implementing all the new technologies. They are using all the methods of modern warfare, and I think they are very successful in that. And this is probably one more factor we should take the advantage on. We have to use the experience of Ukraine, which was collected during the last years, and to use and to apply this experience by building and strengthening our air defense and building and strengthening our armed forces. And I am talking now not only about my country, but also about European Union in general. Thank you. Thank you.
So good afternoon, friends and colleagues. Welcome to this year's GEF. I really look forward to a day that started by looking at the way in which we run our operations with the border guard and together with the defense forces. Our program today is going to be one where we focus first on the east, mainly on Ukraine and Russia. Then we go up north to deal with the Arctic, the North Atlantic, and the Baltic. And then we're looking at a few issues relating to the future of GEF. And then, of course, having a nice dinner at the Mannerheim Museum discussing transatlantic relations. I think in today's world, coalitions matter more than in a long time. And the way in which I see GEF is that we're based on values and interests. That's where they meet together. Our approach here in Finland to defense is one which is layered. The first layer is our national, second one is our regional, and the third one is NATO. And I see GEF very much as a bridge between these. I also think that GEF is of strategic importance and that we are probably one of the most agile, flexible and quick coalitions around. So with these words, I want to welcome you and hand it over to the father of GEF, the United Kingdom, and Prime Minister Starmer, before we then have Volodymyr Zelensky on the screen.
Well, look, thank you, Alex, for bringing us together, and thanks for your hospitality. And it's very good to see colleagues around the table. And it is really important that we're here today because a couple of months ago, all eyes of the world were on the high north, and now they're on the Gulf. And of course, we will continue to defend our interests there. But the threat from Russia in the north and the east has not gone away, and therefore it's important that we're here today. In fact, in my view, that threat has grown, and we all know very well the impact of that threat for our security, for our economies, and the cost of living for families in each of our countries. So it's right that we're focused, as ever, on Euro-Atlantic security and on Ukraine, and bringing those two together. The Joint Expeditionary Force has a vital role to play here, and 12 years in, I think we can say it's proved agile and effective in coordinating, collaborating, and allowing us to think together, to train together. Obviously an integral part of NATO, and we're all deeply committed to that cause. In a minute, I think we're going to hear from Volodymyr, and I think it is important that as we sit here, we remind ourselves that in the face of Putin's abhorrent attacks over the winter, which have been severe this winter in terms of their intensity, attacking infrastructure, particularly energy, and civilians, I have to say the fortitude of the Ukrainian people is extraordinary and not a little humbling, frankly. And we must never lose sight of that, or that Putin continues to take lives of innocent citizens, as we've seen again this week. And I don't know how many times I've said he takes the lives of innocent civilians, as we've seen this week. We've been saying it every week throughout this winter. So it's important that we reiterate that our support for Ukraine is unshakable. And it's great that we're bringing them closer to the GEF as an enhanced partner, and that the Ukrainian Navy will exercise with us for the first time in September. So that is a really important push forward. The crisis in the Gulf has highlighted Ukraine's expertise in modern warfare. That's been a real feature of the last few weeks. They can provide defences against Iranian drones that are unparalleled because of their experience. So we want to keep working with them to multiply that strength. And I was very pleased when Volodymyr was in London last week that we were able to agree a new industrial partnership to bring Ukraine's unique expertise together with the United Kingdom's industrial base to build new capacities that will boost security in the United Kingdom and help Ukraine to keep defending itself from the ongoing Russian bombardment. But this group is of one mind that we must keep strengthening our support for Ukraine, finding new ways to dial up the pressure on Russia, and crucially, that includes further action on the shadow fleet. And that, I think, is a really important agenda item for us today, what we're doing on the shadow fleet, what more we can do on the shadow fleet, and I look forward to that discussion. Because Putin is rubbing his hands at the war in the Gulf and the rising oil prices. And that is why, in my strong view, we should go after the shadow fleet even harder. These old, dilapidated ships carry 75% of Russia's oil, and they are helping to fund Putin's war and posing an unacceptable safety and environmental risk. And we discussed that earlier on this morning. The UK has sanctioned over 500 of these vessels. Finland, Sweden, and Estonia have acted to intercept and interdict them. And Netherlands, of course, stepping up in that regard as well. And our Royal Navy has supported interdiction operations by the US and by France. And today, as I discussed with colleagues, we're announcing that we now stand ready to conduct unilateral interdiction at time and places of our choosing. The British Armed Forces and British law enforcement are now able to board sanctioned vessels that are passing through our waters. Together, we must close off critical sea routes to this vital trade to keep up the pressure on Putin and to help change the narrative of this war. Because the reality on the ground is that Ukraine is holding firm. They've taken back territory in recent weeks, and they're imposing a terrible cost on the invaders. So whatever Putin may tell himself after 4 years, the truth is that Russia is not winning. They won't win, and they must stop blocking the path to a just and lasting peace. And I very much look forward to discussing this with colleagues around the table during the course of the 3 sessions I think we've now got this afternoon. Alex, thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Keir. Next, we will have Vladimir on the screen. So we'll wait a little bit for the media to leave the room. Everyone's sitting so properly. It's good. So, as you will know, the original intention was that Vladimir would join us live, but we had to do a little bit of rescheduling because of the travels of Vladimir. We won't go into the details of that, but instead of a live intervention, he sent us this video this morning, which we'll now be able to listen to. So please go ahead.
Alex, Mr. President, dear friends, I'm glad to speak to you and confirm that Ukraine is ready to contribute to the development of the security cooperation format, the GEF. We all see now that the world can be very harsh and dangerous for those who stand alone or stay aside from joint efforts to ensure real security. Today, no one knows what the future holds for Europe or how Russia will behave in the coming years. But one thing is clear: coordinated actions and real investment in security must work. We have an aggressive Russian regime next to us that has no intention of returning to peaceful coexistence with its neighbors. Next to Russia is Belarus, still ruled by one man, and yesterday on Freedom Day, celebrated by Belarusians, he went to North Korea, one of the world's darkest symbols of oppression. It sends a clear message to the entire region. And our nations are also dealing with the consequences of a deep crisis in the Middle East and the Gulf. Even if the war there ends soon, much will still need to be done to ensure stable supplies of critical resources from that region. All of these, and especially the brutality of Russia's war against Ukraine, pushes each of us to act more. And thank you for this kind of cooperation. Ukraine has now offered the countries of the Middle East and the Gulf long-term cooperation to protect their skies. They have strong financial resources and experience in dealing with ballistic threats, but they need our expertise in countering drones. This includes all types of drones: Shahid, drones which cause serious damage to infrastructure, and FPV drones, which are now used for targeted attacks on military bases and equipment in the region. The first agreements have already been prepared by our teams. Ukraine had the world's strongest experience in using drones. We offer the Middle East and Gulf countries a partnership that benefits both sides, our knowledge and technology and their funding. And we are working to make this happen. Our contribution to security in that region will also be a real contribution to global security. This matters because energy security and the cost of living, particularly in Europe, depends on their oil, gas, and other resources and stable global markets. And I believe that in Europe we need to build more close cooperation between Ukraine, your countries, and all European nations to ensure real protection on land, in the air, and at sea. The key is not only producing new weapons, especially drones, not just technology, but also real experience in using it and integrating it with radars, aviation, and other air defense systems. We have this experience. Together, we have a strong industrial base. You have financial capacity. Let's bring all of this together even more. And I'm grateful to every country we already have clear agreements with on joint production. We should work so that with all JEF countries, we build a real production alliance. And I'm grateful for the enhanced partnership status for Ukraine received in Oslo. The status already opens the door to practical cooperation, like taking part in the terraces exercise. We are ready to move forward, bringing our experience and capabilities to make the JEF community even stronger. And our goal is simple and clear. Ukraine is ready to become a full-fledged member of the JEF. And thank those who work closely with us across the military, defense ministries, and special services. We need to come together and strengthen our shared experience so we can be strong in every area, protecting lives, infrastructure, energy, the seas, and cyberspace. And I believe we can do this. I believe that a free Europe will prevail over all who threaten us. And of course, air defense is a top priority. In Europe, we must have full capacity to produce all types of air defense systems and the missiles for them. This includes protection against drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic threats. And we cannot rely on other partners' industries. We must be confident in our own industry here in Europe. Please, let's keep moving this work forward and speed it up. And while we are building this capacity, please remember that we need protection from Russian missiles every single day. And I'm grateful to those of you who actively support us through the Pearl program. It's critically important. And one more point. Oil and gas markets are very, very uncertain now. But we must not let Russia take advantage of this. We all know that for Russia, money from oil and gas means more time for war. Putin turns every dollar he earns into killing and destabilization. So please keep the pressure on Russia. Its tankers and shadow fleet must not feel safe in European waters. I thank Denmark and Sweden and France for detaining these vessels, a clear demonstration that enforcement is not only possible but effective. Now we must go further. These tankers must not just be stopped, they must not be used to bypass international law. We need joint action to create strong laws in Europe that allow countries to block Russian tankers and confiscate the oil. This should be a real tool to take away Russia's ability to pressure Europe. Please also help others in Europe move these decisions forward and implement them at home. Please, let's do this. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.